So welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's tutorial took me weeks of research and trial and effort, but I finally got classic Rebirth Resident Evil 1 running on the Steam Deck. Here's my step-by-step guide. If you follow this to a T, I will guarantee you it will work on your Steam Deck. You're going to need a Windows PC as well as your Steam Deck for this tutorial, and I also use a laptop dock for my Steam Deck to get the best picture quality available for this video. Let's do this.
Resident Evil.
Okay, so let's proceed to install classic Rebirth for the Steam Deck. We're over on a Windows PC first, and why we're here is we want to create an installation package and have that created on the Windows PC and ready for transfer to our Steam Deck. I'm over on classicrebirth.com, so go to Google, go to the website classicrebirth.com, go to downloads, and you're going to go ahead and download the Classic Rebirth DLL. And go back to the main download Classic Rebirth page and also download the patch. So the official 1.01 patch. And lastly, what you want to do is we're going to download a program called Winpinator. At Google Winpinator, go to downloads, or in this case, I'm getting the 64-bit installer. Go ahead and download that. And this utility is used for transferring data over a network from a Windows PC to a Steam Deck. Now, in theory, if you create your installation directory of Resident Evil 1 Classic Rebirth, you could copy it to an SD card and insert that into your Steam Deck. But in this tutorial, we're going to transfer it over the network. So what I've done is I've created a folder on my desktop called Res Evil Files, and I've copied all the files that I've downloaded into this directory. Now, there is one other file that you need. It's called Biohazzard mediakite.iso. Now, I'm not going to tell you where to get that. Google is your friend, and if you search this, you will find it. So it's the Biohazzard mediakite.iso, and this is the actual installation of Resident Evil itself. So what we want to do is, the very first thing we want to do is we want to right click this and we're going to mount it. And in this, all we need is the horror directory, HORR. So we're going to copy this and we're going to go back to our Res Evil Files directory and we're going to paste this here. So within our Res Evil Files, you will now see a folder called horror, and within that there's another folder called JPN and data da. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to Classic Rebirth RE1. Now, what we want to do is we want to take the two 7-zip files, so the zip files for the mediakite 101 and the Resident Evil Classic Rebirth DLL. We're going to drag those into our newly renamed folder, and we're going to extract both of those to here. And you can use WinZip or the Windows inbuilt utility or whatever. I'm going to take these back out of here, back to our Res Evil Files directory. And now we should have a folder called Classic Rebirth RE1. It should have the JPN folder, it should have a executable called biohazard.exe, and it should have another file called ddraw.dll. And what I want to do next is we want to plan to transfer this to our Steam Deck. So go ahead and run the Winpinator setup. Click yes, click OK, next, I agree. I'm going to set the destination folder to my desktop here. Next, install, and hit next again. And you can uncheck show release notes, but actually run the Winpinator. So leave that checked and hit finish to run the program. So once the program's running, it'll say starting Winpinator. You won't see anything here. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to File, Preferences. You can just OK that error prompt. Go to Connection, and in group code, make sure it's set to 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit OK. Now leave this open and running. And we're going to swap over to our Steam Deck. So over on our Steam Deck, now just to note, I have this inserted into my capture card. So my Steam Deck is connected to my laptop dock. This is in order to get the best picture quality for this video. But I'm in game mode at the moment. We want to come out of that. So we're going to go to the Steam menu. We're going to go to Power. We're going to go switch to desktop. We're going to desktop mode. And once we're in desktop mode, what we want to do is we want to open the Discover Center. And in the search bar, we're going to type Warpinator or Warpin. So just to be clear, it's called Warpinator for SteamOS and it's called Winpinator for Windows. Hit install on this. Once it's installed, left click it again and hit launch. And once it launches, press the three little minus hyphen keys here, preferences, connection, and again, making sure your group code is set to 1, 2, 3, 4. And you will see it'll start automatically searching and it will pick up any system on the network that happens to be running the application on Windows. So Winpinator is running on my PC and Warpinator is running on my Steam Deck. I'm going to select this. So now I've opened a connection with my PC. We're going to swap back over to the PC and back over our Windows PC. Now you will see my Steam Deck is listed here. So what we want to do is we want to select it and hit next. And I want to send it a folder. So I'm going to go send folder. We're going to go to our desktop, going to go to Res Evil Files, and we're going to find our classic Rebirth RE1 directory. Select that folder, and you'll see a prompt that says awaiting approval from Steam Deck user. We're going to switch back over to our Steam Deck again. And back over on our Steam Deck, you can see it's now awaiting approval files. So tick that and the transfer will begin. So once that's complete, we can close out Warpinator and we can minimize the Discover Center. We're not finished with that yet. Now open up the file manager for Dolphin, bottom left hand corner of the screen here. And what you want to do is you want to go to Home, and there should be a newly created folder called Warpinator. Go into that, and within that you'll see your transfer directory called Classic Rebirth. Now I'm going to cut this to our desktop. So I'm going to right click and cut this and paste this onto our Steam Deck desktop. And just place it here in the middle. Now, very, very important step next. What we want to do is we want to create another new folder. So we're going to call this Create New Folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this RE1 Wine. And just line it up beside your installation directory. Now go into your newly created RE1 Wine folder, and I will explain why all of this later on. But go ahead and within that and create a new text file, and again call this Wine. And within that again then put in the word Wine and save the text file. Now this is just a placeholder file within this folder. So very, very important that you create this directory. We will need this later on, and as I said, I will explain why later. So now what we should have, a recap, is we have Classic Rebirth RE1 transferred to our Steam Deck. It has the folder JPN, we have the biohazard.exe, and we have ddraw.dll. And then beside that then on the desktop we have another folder called RE1 Wine. Within that there's a text file called wine.txt, and within that then it has some information that just says wine. Okay, again, this is just a placeholder file. Close out all of that. We need to install more programs. Type the word Proton in the Discover Center, and we're going to install a program called ProtonUP-QT. So hit install on that. And once the program launches, you will see there's no installed compatibility tools. It'll just say 0 here. We need to get the latest version of GE Proton installed on our Steam Deck. So how do we do that? We go to Add Version, and in the compatibility tool we need GE Proton, and we need the version, the latest version, and in this case it's 8.3.2 as of making this video. So select GE Proton and then the version GE Proton 8.3.2 and hit install. And what will happen is it'll start downloading and installing. So once that's complete, you will now see install compatibility tools is now 1, and you will see GE Proton 8.3.2, and it just says unused at the moment, and that's okay. So what we can do is we can close this, and we need to download a new program again. So this time we're going to search a program called Lutris and go ahead and install Lutris. So once Lutris is installed, left click it and hit launch. So once it's launched, you will see welcome to Lutris. What we want to do is we're going to hit the plus button here at the top left, and we're going to go add game. And what we're going to do here then is we're going to go add locally installed game, and I'm going to name it RE1 Classic Rebirth. And what you want to do is under runner, hit the drop down arrow, and we're going to select wine. This runs Windows games. Then go to game options, and we're going to find our executable. In this case, it's on our desktop, Classic Rebirth RE1, and then biohazard.exe. Now very, very important, and this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the second folder we created. Go ahead and find the second folder that is called RE1 Wine, which had that text file in it, and hit OK. Critically important this is done, because we need to have a folder and a directory that creates a wine prefix. So basically, it's a virtualized version of Windows that runs the game in essence, and we need to create a secondary folder for that. So pointing to that newly created RE1 Wine folder, so just to be clear, your executable points to the biohazard.exe file directly, and then the wine prefix points to that secondary folder on the desktop. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to the runner options, and under wine version, we're going to select GE Proton 8.3.2. So this is the Proton version we installed earlier, making sure you select GE Proton 8.3.2. And under graphics, make sure you enable DG Voodoo 2. So check this, and then critically, under DLL overrides, click the button add, double click on key, and type ddraw.dll. And then in the values section, type the letter N. So just to confirm, DLL override should have the key ddraw.dll, which is basically the DLL file for Classic Rebirth, and the value on this should be N. Okay, and we're going to hit save. Now what you see is you'll see a listed game called RE1 Classic Rebirth. We're not going to do anything with that yet other than just click it once. So left click it once, and down at the bottom here you will see RE1 Classic Rebirth, and you will see a little wine icon here. Hit the up arrow and select Wine Tricks. And give it a moment. Prompt window will appear. And what you will see is you will see Wine Tricks, and it says choose a wine prefix. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the default wine prefix and hit OK. And the next thing we want to do is we want to say install a Windows DLL or component. So hit the radio button on that and hit OK again. And it's going to bring up a big list of stuff. So we need to install 3 packages. Scroll all the way down and eventually you'll get to Windows Media Player 10, 11 and 9. So we want to check these 3 and make sure it's blue ticked and hit OK. And we can go back to Lutris. Now you will see a prompt and an error. Okay, and that's fine, just okay, that is expected. And lastly, what we can do is we're going to create some shortcuts. So I'm going to create a shortcut in Steam, and this will allow us to run RE1 Classic Rebirth in game mode, but we're also going to create one on the desktop because I want to show everybody that this works. We're going to test it. So after that, we can close out Lutris, we can close out the Discover Center, and on the desktop, you will see a newly created shortcut called RE1 Classic Rebirth. Double click that. And if you've done everything right up until this point, Classic Rebirth will launch. And it'll say no config because we haven't created a configuration entry yet. Hit OK. And a couple of things I recommend you do here. Just for the purpose of this test, now you can set this to full screen, especially if you're going to use it in game mode. I'd recommend set it to full screen. But the purpose of this test, I'm going to just select the resolution 1280 by 960. Texture filtering, you can enable that. I'm going to do quick turn here because that introduces the quick turn from Resident Evil 3. Very handy. Your X input should be highlighting the X input controller, aka the controller of the Steam Deck. Enable movies and always boot in configure mode. That's fine. You can leave them as they are. You can, if you want, enable vibration. It's up to you. So that will allow you to use the vibration on your Steam Deck. I'm just going to go none in this case. Hit OK. And there we go. Resident Evil 1 Classic Rebirth now running on the Steam Deck. You have no idea how hard it was to try and do all the research for this. Trial and error, but I ended up getting it working. And there we go. Hopefully this works for everybody else. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos on Resident Evil on the channel. This will also work with mods. However, it doesn't work cleanly with the Seamless HD project. I will cover that in a future post. But I did manage to get some of the mods working. But in theory, you can get, if you go to ModDB, there's a lot of mods created for this game now based off the mediakite version. And you can use most of those as well if you add them to your install directory. Hopefully this helped everybody. If you're new to the channel, please consider supporting my work by subscribing. Drop a message down below if this helped you out. And if you're stuck, let me know. But if you follow this guide correctly, it will work. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you later.